that time of day again for a little bit of time together as we continue the journey of watching me learn how to play Fallout 76. It's been a journey so far. I've learned a lot. I've got to hang out with you guys, with my nephews, with my friends near and far. And I actually like this game. I'm trying to ignore all the hype that I keep hearing about or the negativity surrounding this, and I'm trying to enjoy the game as exactly what it is. It's a game to be played. And luckily, I'm not a professional gamer. I guess I'm a filthy casual, but I enjoy them. I enjoy games especially like this where I could play with my friends and the servers aren't so completely populated that you can't do anything. I believe you can have like 20 people on a server and that's it. That's perfect for somebody like me who, even though I am extroverted, I am not a gregarious extrovert. I'm actually an intimate extrovert. I thrive in environments where there's only a few. If you put me in a very crowded room or environment, the social anxiety takes over and I lose the capability to continue with my personality and I end up falling into myself. And that's not who I am. But in an environment like this, I can hang out with those that join my streams. There's only a maximum of 20 people around me, and they're not all clustered in the same spot. They're usually spread out throughout the map. So, I'm not alone, and I'm not lonely. It's actually a very good combination for me. Ah, home sweet home. I was very pleased with yesterday. The progress that we made together. I accomplished a lot of things. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised. As is tradition, we're going to collect some of the resources in the area. The free ones, of course. The ones we've planted so far. And the ones throughout the pathway to the little creek back here. Where the little stash of iron is, grab some water, go home, make a bunch of tea as is tradition. Do love me some tea. I've been sitting here at my desk for over 2 hours debating whether or not I was going to get online and stream today. To be honest with you, I'm not feeling well. Probably you can hear it in my voice if you've gotten to know its nuances. Some of you know and some of you don't, especially new people listening in. I'm a young woman in my 30s. I know, surprise, surprise. And if you notice the time of day that I tend to stream, it would behoove you to think, shouldn't she be at work? You're right, I should be. And I miss it. I was a development specialist for a large healthcare company. I loved teaching. I love it still. I enjoyed taking challenging environments and situations and bringing the humanity factor back in to the workplace. Most companies give employees a number. You're referred to as a number or a widget, a body and a seat. You expect a certain amount of productivity, a certain amount of activity, and things to be considered successful, and you're rated upon these things. But there's not the human factor. As a matter of fact, especially in the healthcare industry, you're held to an expectation of perfection extremely high, and with good reason. If you're in the medical field, you most likely have people's livelihoods in your hands. Their actual lives are at stake. There really is no margin for error. Yet, we are still human. We still make mistakes. Oh, hey, dinner. Now, I did get distracted for a moment. Back on topic. So in my job of perfection, was always strived for. Even the employees under me who only handled paperwork, a certain level of professionalism and perfection was expected. The environment was challenging. And sometimes, even I would say that their expectations were out of scope. I was told that I lacked drive and ambition or a sense of urgency. I disagree with this. I always have. Mostly because we continue to forget the human factor. Many people have many challenges. Some physical, some mental. You know, it just... there's more to the story. So, in the position that I was in eventually, I took my knowledge in communication, my skills with perception and empathy, and I put it to work. I thought there was a better way to train, a better way to teach, especially for adults, and I was right. So I pursued continuing education that focused on adult education, because adults learn and develop differently than when we were children and when we were young. I also wanted to take the scary part of, say, a new job and take it from the anxiety-filled freak fest and turned it into something more manageable, maybe even fun, where I would teach people to treat each other with dignity, respect, inclusion, and acceptance. Companies are very much trying to adapt to modern society and the changes therein. Diversity and inclusion is necessary for progress. So I tried to teach people how to critically think. I tried to teach people how to develop empathy. Not everybody has empathy, but you can learn to accept the social cues and understand what empathy is. So I did that. I wanted anybody that ever came into my classroom to feel safe. It was an environment, and I forgot the water. Of course I did. Let's go get water. Everybody who came to me was safe. I did not care what background you came from, what race, religion, creed, color, orientation. I didn't care. If you came to my classroom, you were a student, you were a participant, you were important, and therefore you were safe. And even then, some people can learn things quicker than others. Plus, people learn differently. Some people are audio, some are visual, some are kinesthetic, and some are a mixture of all three. So even when I taught, sometimes I didn't reach everybody in the same way. So I took my time in every classroom to develop a way to incorporate not just my speaking. I wanted to impart the knowledge. I did not lecture, ever. I taught. I shared what I knew, showed you how to do it, and let you come to the conclusions yourselves. Because that's the best way to learn, is when you make your own connection and find your own path. to the answer. There's always more than one way to get somewhere. And I truly believe that. So I enjoyed my job. I enjoyed taking new people and teaching them. I especially enjoyed diversity and inclusion classes where everybody that I worked with for years would join me, and together they would get to know me better because I came at things differently. I saw things differently, felt things differently, and I enjoyed sharing it with everyone. Now we get to the story of what am I doing at home in the middle of the afternoon instead of being at work, instead of teaching, because clearly I'm passionate about it. I must have liked it. I really did. I really, really did. One of these days, I'll turn the camera back on and fully stream with you guys. Give that additional connection. But I have to admit, I'm still a bit shy, and yeah, I'm not comfortable enough yet. Not even now. I've only been streaming with you guys for the last week, you know. Let me warm up to you a little bit more. I'll get there. So here we are. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Most people are working. It's Tuesday. Now here in the Midwest, it's sunny. It's a beautiful day. It's chilly. But after all, it is winter. I should be expecting a lot of snow, cold temperatures, etc. But no, I'm actually getting sun. It's beautiful. I enjoyed it today. I had to bundle up, but I went outside with some hot tea, Earl Grey, my favorite. And I sat out on my back porch and I enjoyed the weather. The wind wasn't horrible. And just enjoyed it. But here I am, mid-30s, not at work. What's my excuse? I'm retired. That's my excuse. Now, most people, when they hear the word retired, you instantly think of people in their late 60s, early 70s. Or people who are lucky enough to have won the lottery. Oh, wouldn't that be a story to tell? Wouldn't that be great? Oh, this... Yes, all the computer and gear I would build out. Oh, the things I would do, the traveling. Come on now. Don't tell me I'm the only person who's ever thought about what I would do if I won the lottery. From things like pimping out my local humane society, building my mom her own house, or her own she shed, whatever she desired at the time. You know, taking care of my family, a little something for my friends, and those that I hold dear. And then, of course, there's the selfish things. You know, getting out of debt, traveling the world maybe, exploring. Now, being the geek that I am, had I won, I would definitely tell you my bucket list then. But I'm apparently procrastinating on my own story. Why do we do that, I wonder? Anyway, I digress. But yes, I'm retired. And no, I'm not in my 60s or 70s, I'm in my 30s. And it's because I have rheumatoid arthritis. Most people, when they hear the word arthritis, they again think of their grandparents or people later in life who lose their functionality in some of their limbs and digits. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in my 20s. As a matter of fact, I was 24. The world was at my feet. I was just finishing up my bachelor's degree and was debating pursuing a masterate. My husband had successfully finished his bachelor's degree, and we had just gotten married. We had been high school sweethearts. Met on a blind date when we were 15 and have been together ever since. So here we are in our 20s. The world was our oyster. We could be anything. We believed that. Both of us. We knew anything was possible. My husband had went into information systems. Originally, he went into computer engineering. But he found that didn't suit him. Information services, or internet security and the like, that seemed to be his thing. As well as he liked leading people. He's very much the introvert. And he's very much the perfectionist. But that didn't stop him from being able to direct and lead people to be their best selves. And he's successful in it. I'm extremely proud of him. But we're not going to gush about my husband all day, don't worry. I'm not going to make you go, barf, this is gross. Because most likely my nephew is going to listen to this program, and I really don't want to make him sick due to the fact it's only Tuesday. I'll wait till next week when I have to see him. And nephew, if you're listening, you better bring your A game to Christmas because I am bringing it on. Anyway, before I continue to digress even further off my story, I was diagnosed with degenerative rheumatoid arthritis in my 20s. Originally, the doctors diagnosed me saying it was already moderate to severe. There's currently no cure. We can put band-aids on it. We can treat the disease in hopes to slow it down and put it in remission. And we can try to prevent further damage. That's the best we can hope for. Try to give you quality of life. I was told at that point I would be in a wheelchair by the time I was 30. I would be lucky if I got to see 40. I didn't like those answers. I was 24. I mean, for God's sake, I was invincible. Almost superhumanly invincible. Young, 20s. I was salutatorian in high school. I was smart. I was pretty. Well, I didn't think so at the time, but you know what? It wasn't half bad. I was MVP in the volleyball team. We went to state and internationals. I even played in college. It was fun. You tell somebody who's young, fit, active, freshly married, going into their field, that no, you're going to fall apart? Oh, no. I don't think so. Well, that was my ego and my hubris. And boy, did I have a big dose of ego and hubris. I'm thankful for it because I'm almost 40. Shock and awe, guys. I'm almost 40. I'm almost 40, and I'm proud to tell you all, I'm not in a wheelchair. And currently, I don't even use the walker or cane anymore. I'm fully upright, walking on my own, successfully. There are times when it gets bad, and I still have to have help. There are a lot of things I can no longer do. The biggest thing of all being, I can no longer teach. As a teacher, you're expected to work long hours. You're expected to create curriculum. You're expected to get up there and teach it. And in my field, you're also expected to travel. Now, unfortunately, these are the things I can no longer do. Now, it might sound sad, and I'm not here trying to make you sad, just to have an understanding of what's going on. Most people, when they see me smiling, laughing, cutting up, being the wonky character that I am, they just see a young person in her 30s. Why isn't she working? What is she doing at home? Is she abusing the system? Is she the reason why we should have all this judgment? I understand that perception. Because I get it. When we look at somebody and they don't look sick, it's so easy to prejudge. It really, really is. To make assumptions. I don't look sick. Unless you actually look closely at my hands. Which, a lot of times I'm hiding, for that reason. I don't want to look sick. I don't want to look disabled. I hate it when I have to use the cane. I hate it during the times when I have to use a walker. Just to walk. I hate it. I hate it. I work very hard. Ooh, you're a tough one. I really do work hard to keep from having to use those tools. I'm grateful that those tools are available because I am fighting to never be in the chair. I want quality of life. And although quality is relative, some people may look at quality of life differently than others based on their situation. If you had asked me 3 years ago what quality of life would have been, it would be that I could still teach, that I could still be contributing to my household, to my family. 3 years ago, I was still capable of having children. I was still capable of working. I was still capable of advancing. I was just about to start my masterate program. My bosses had invested in me based on my performances, my skill level, and my teaching capabilities. They thought very highly of my people skills, my empathy, and how well everybody loved it when I taught. So, further education was on my list. They're like, you can do this. It's time. Go back to school. Now, I hadn't been in school in 10 years. I kind of freaked out. I'm like, you want me to go back to school? It's been 10 years. I have no clue what the hell I'm doing. They told me to have confidence, to go do it. That it would benefit everyone around me. My skills would improve.
The food processing machines at Mama Dolce's have finally cooled down enough to work again. I set them up to make cans of stew using the ingredient containers spread around the factory. Well, the machines make a hell of a racket, so you'll probably get some unwanted guests.
Oh, we're gonna get some unwanted guests. Hi. There you go, wake up. I think we crashed. Uh-oh. We crashed. Oh no. Oh no, we crashed. There it goes. Now, due to rudely interrupted, let's go back to our regularly scheduled program. Fallout 76 and all its crashy glory. Come on, let's get back to it. We were trying to have some serious talk. You interrupted me. Now, this totally distracted me from my train of thought. Easily done. Especially lately. So I've told you all how early I was diagnosed, and how quickly they told me I would lose my capabilities. They said 30. And they told me that I wouldn't make it past 40. Well, they lied. I'm breaking every rule. Because I choose to fight. I chose to continue my career. I chose to take the medications and fight with everything I had and rebuild. Quality of life to...
Calling all responders. Sanjay here, letting you know that Steelheart is fully charged and ready for action. If you're in Morgantown, go ahead and activate him so we can check the alarms on the stash rooms. Just make sure he doesn't take too much damage. I've got enough repair work as it is.
Where did it put us?
Heads up, responders. The food processing machines at Mama Dolce's have finally cooled down enough to work again. I've set them up to make cans of stew using the ingredient containers spread around the factory. The machines make a hell of a racket, so you'll probably get some unwanted guests.
Okay, so... that was unexpected. The crashing and everything else. But back to our story. Yeah, let's go this way. Let's go this way. So anyway. I pursued my career. I enjoyed teaching. And was able to do it for 4 years. Once I got into my field. And it took me a few years to get into my field, mind you. Matter of fact, it took me many years to pay off the student loans, let me tell you. I think we all have those worries. I feel for kids these days. Cost of education is crazy. Anyway. So I was trying to explain. I'm teaching, I'm working, and I'm taking treatments. Continuing. Thinking I was pretty much the hot stuff. Even with this disease, I was still pursuing things. My husband also continued to pursue his dreams and his work, and was being quite successful. We had a good marriage, had a good life. We even built our own house. Everything was coming together. The only thing that hadn't happened during all this time was we didn't have children. Part of it was, one of the bad things about rheumatoid arthritis is the medications you have to take. They're not easy on your body, because they often include biologics, and in some cases you have to go on chemo. You know, chemo sounds scary, doesn't it? It kinda is at times. Mostly because it weakens you, makes you tired, makes you kind of a zombie a little bit. And that was kind of where I've been at. These last few years, we continued to do drug trials, we continued to take biologics, and yes, even chemo. But the thing is, the more I worked, the more I started to realize my hands were swelling. They were swelling to the point of... I tell you, it was extremely painful. I couldn't create materials, to teach with, and it got bad. It got so bad. There were days I couldn't get out of bed on my own, and it was scary. It really was scary. Because you want to do well for your participants. And when you're the teacher, there is no substitute teachers in the corporate world. You're it. You create the content. You teach the content. There was really no exception to this. But even my students, my participants, the people with me, started to notice how much I was struggling. And they tried. Being the kind people they were, they tried. They let me have a stool in the room. Instead of standing up and trying to teach or go around, they brought me a rolly stool to work. And they worked with me. The company did too. They tried to make exceptions. Yes, by law they are required to do such things. Reasonable adjustments to make my work environment more conducive to my abilities, which were very much becoming limited. Oh, there's the moon. Look at that. Moon's offering to be my children. You know what, wench? I've already adopted your punk ass. You already know this. You need to come home. Anyway. So we get to the last couple of years. My hands that kept swelling. The flare-ups with rheumatoid, they started to get worse. I started failing treatments. I started getting sicker. And finally, I had a very large classroom. A standing room only classroom. I had created all the new materials. I was very excited. I was working with HR. It was the first time I was teaching customer service representatives. This was out of my normal scope. I was extremely excited for it. I had about 30 students, participants. Oh, I loved it. I got the biggest room, which had a wall dedicated to whiteboard. Whiteboard and magic markers, the erase kind. I would sit there, and every morning I would write out the goals for the day on one little corner of the board, and then I would draw out a cartoon for the day. Now, it was winter time, so I decided to draw, a sand island with palm trees, a flamingo, and somebody chilling on the beach, right? It was a stick figure chilling on the beach, because you gotta understand my artistic skills were they're not that talented. I am a stick figure girl. But it's okay. And I gotta tell you, my flamingo was amazing. It was a stick figure flamingo. It was beautiful. I was proud of it. I decided to wrap Christmas lights on the trunk of the palm tree. And it wasn't even Christmas time. I didn't care. It was being sarcastic. It was being ironic. The participants loved it. The other thing is, I made everybody a cardboard little folding tent with their name on it, because I don't know about you, but learning people's names, especially when you have a room full of 30 strangers, yeah, that was going to be a challenge. So everyone would put this cardboard thing on their monitor on the top of it. So when I'd walk around the room, I could look at the name tag and then the person and begin to affiliate the two. Because to bring people in, instead of just a number, you have to get to know them. Now, they're in your classroom for a very short time. I understand that. But I wanted them to feel safe. As I wanted them to feel like they were important, that they were included. So not only did I create this name tag, but every time I had a new class, I would go and get reams of stickers. I don't care how old you get, you're gonna want a sticker. You might chuckle at this, and it is a little funny, but if you were in a classroom for 8 hours a day with this one person, you would want things to break the ice. I used Laffy Taffy, the dad jokes therein, comics, and stickers. Yes, these are adults. I did not care. I wanted us to have fun. I wanted people to come in and have that experience with me of that full inclusion. So even though I was getting sicker, even though the biologics were getting harder, and I continued to create these environments, and I loved it. I loved my students. Everything about it was fantastic. Now the sad part is, adults do not learn when you stand up and lecture them for hours ad nauseum. Your eyes are going to glass over. You're going to get bored. You're completely going to get bored. Alright, we're going to start this quest too. But anyway, I'm teaching. We're having a good time. We're going through and Laffy Taffy jokes. As people would eat the Laffy Taffies, my only request was they kept the jokes. And then they were to email me the jokes that they thought were funny, haha. Or facepalm cringe. I didn't care. I loved it. And I would get up in front of the class and I would tell these awful dad jokes. And it was there was an exercise drive at work because we worked in an environment, a cube farm. And they were telling people that we were too sedentary. So they incorporated, even in the classroom, a requirement that every 2 hours we got up and we stretched. And then, not only did we stretch, we had to, do some exercises, stretch your arms out, touch your toes, do a little, just dance kind of thing. So I would go on YouTube and I would find the weirdest songs ever. Now, a bit of homework for you guys when you're done watching me today. Go look up the Narwhal song. That was one of my main songs I used in the classroom. And I'm talking about the good Narwhal song. I'd sing it to you, but it'll make your ears bleed. So go look up narwhals. Because narwhals are awesome. They are the ninjas of the sea. They are inventors of the shish kebab. I'm not gonna go for it and sing, nephew. I'm sorry, you don't pay me enough. But you have to look it up. And this is where, sadly, my story gets a little sad. I'm teaching a class. It was supposed to run 8 weeks. It was the last class of the year. Due to the fact, by the time that class would have ended, we would have hit the Christmas season. And there are no classes in December. due to the fact most people are on vacation, taking their final bits of vacation and whatnot. So not only did this class have to finish and successfully be put to work, I had to prepare to leave and go back to Texas. Luckily, this class was at home in the Midwest. Lord knows I didn't want to be gone for Christmas in the middle of Texas. Nobody wants to do that and be far away from their family. Especially me. But I'm teaching. And the environment that my company had was one that was very unhealthy. Even if you were sick, you were still expected to come to work, even though the office was an enclosed environment, which means it would have spread like wildfire. They didn't care. You were expected to be there. Now, being that I have rheumatoid arthritis, it's an autoimmune disease, which meant anytime somebody came in sick, I got it worse. You know, when somebody came in with the common cold, it might take you 2 to 3 days to shake it. Well, 2 to 3 days for a normal, reasonably healthy individual compared to somebody who's compromised, like I was. Their 2 to 3 days would have been 2 to 3 weeks for me. So think of it as any kind of crud would double and triple its longevity with me. Makes it kind of scary. Also carried the potential to hospitalize me. Unlock terminal. There we go. Give me all the things. So yes, I'm teaching. Things are going great. The students are giving me all the best dad jokes ever. All the Laffy Taffy jokes. All the Narwhal songs. Oh god, what other songs did we have? Didn't matter, but Narwhals was the biggest hit of them all. We would exercise. We had lunch together. We did everything. The class was succeeding. It was going so well. But I had a couple of people that kept coming in and they were sick. And that's when it got scary. I was concerned. They would come in and they'd be running extremely high fevers and they would be not very lucid. I was concerned. They were scared they were going to get fired. And it was a valid reason to be scared. My company, if you missed more than 1 day during training, you were fired. No questions. So this young mother of 2 came to work. She was sick. Her fever was high. I didn't have a thermometer on me, so I can't give you a number, but it was hot. And I was scared for her. I was scared for her, not just her health, but the health of the class. Because she was so sick and so out of it. And she tried to keep up. She tried very hard to be a good student, to participate, and it wasn't working. We had a potluck because we were coming to the end of the first section. Ooh, I could be a police officer now. That could be fun. And so we had our potluck. And this little girl came in, even though she was sick. So everybody ate, drank, made merry. But she had been coming to class all week. And then there was me. Compromised. I was teaching, and I was dizzy. I knew I was running a fever at that point, but we got through the day. I was walking by my boss's desk, and she told me to come in. My eyes were glassy. She could tell I was sick. And she told me that day, she goes, "You have 2 weeks left of this class, and you have to get through it. I have no one that could cover you. Nobody knows your material. There's not even anybody here. Nobody can teach it but you. So even if you're sick, just take your time, come to work, don't breathe on anybody, and keep going." I said, okay. What else was I gonna say? It had to be done. I didn't want to lose my job. Nobody does. I made it through the next 2 weeks, but I was weak and got weaker and weaker and weaker. I would go home from work, I would fall on the couch, and I would go right to sleep. My alarm, I would wake up, my husband would wake me up the next day, and I'd go right back to work, and I would have slept in my clothes. That's how bad it was. I would fall asleep on the couch as soon as I got home, which means I wasn't eating properly at that point. Didn't have an appetite anyway, really. We made it. We got to the end of the class. My boss came in. It was 2 hours before quitting time, but everybody had already finished their testing, and they were sent home as a reward for finishing the class. Those that passed went on to HR and became employed. Those that did not were dismissed. So at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my boss came by me, and I guess I was very pale and not steady on my feet. She put her hand to my forehead and told me I was burning up, that I was to go immediately to the doctor. So I left. I went to my primary care doctor. I barely... I got in, I signed in, the nurse saw me and says, "You look awful. There's something wrong. Come here and sit down." They took me to a patient room. They put me on an IV. Ran my temperature. It was incredibly high. Did emergency blood work. And made me stay. They were infusing me with a bunch of fluids anyway, so it wasn't like I was going anywhere. It's not like I had a hot date. To me, the hot date would have been my bed. That's all I could think about. I'm like, I kept telling him, oh, it's... I had to continue to teach, even though I think I've caught a cold. It's just a cold. It's nothing. The doctor came in, and he's like, "There's something wrong." And he's like, you're at 104 degrees. If your fever spikes, go immediately to the emergency room. I could barely remember his name. I was out of it. I still drove myself home. The my boss, luckily this was Friday afternoon, she sent me home. So I had Saturday and Sunday to sleep it off. Monday morning, basically I slept the weekend through. Monday morning, my husband told me, "Get up, we're going to the doctor." He wouldn't go to work. He was so worried at that point. I was out of it, and I said, I don't get it. What's going on? He goes, "There's something wrong. You slept 18 hours a day. This whole weekend. All you did was sleep. You're not eating. You're dehydrated as all get-go." So, yay. Yay for husband. Because he took me. They put me on fluids immediately. The nurse just dragged me to my room. Like, alright, I'm going to my room. So I did. My doctor has a PA. And his PA is extremely talented as well. Well, my doctor was busy taking care of other patients, so the PA decided to pop in and check on me. Bunny kept going, all she does is sleep. She's not eating. She sleeps. That's all she's doing. My fever was again pushing 104, 105. It wasn't good. At that point, he was like, we need to put her in the hospital. My husband agreed. He also decided to run one last test. How many of you have heard of the kissing disease? I'm sure many of you have. Well, the formal word for it is called Epstein-Barr virus. Most of the time you get it from sucking face with somebody who has it. Better known as mono. Oh yeah, isn't that a sexy, sexy disease? Even my doctors picked on me. They ran the blood work, and sure enough, I had it. Now, normally, no, it wasn't strep throat, it was Epstein-Barr. It was mono. The blood work for mono would have been any score above 10. Like, everybody has been exposed. If you went to school at all, you were exposed to that virus. So as long as the virus was dormant and below, they gave it a numeric number. Anything below 10 was normal. You're considered to have mono if you're above 10, but more specifically if you're closer to 20. 20 is like the magic number. Mine was 200. Not 10, not 20. It was 200. It was like Vegeta. It's over 9,000! I had freaking super mono. The hospital wouldn't take me. They're like, we don't want this chick with mono up in our grill. So they the hospital turned my doctor down and said, stabilize her outpatient at your place and just watch her. Unless, you know, my fever spiked or something along those lines, then bring her in, because then they would have to get me stable. I did end up in the hospital. I ended up becoming septic. They had to treat me. Still had mono, but they had to treat. I just became toxic. I had my own toxic stew. I had to stay in the hospital for a week. I was bored out of my gourd. Now, in the meantime, my students didn't get their follow-up with me. They got put into their positions. I'm in the hospital. I'm sick. And I wasn't allowed to go back to work for 6 months. Well, now think about this. 6 months. Mono should only last 4 weeks. But being that I'm compromised, remember I told you the common cold for 2 to 3 days meant 2 to 3 weeks? Yeah. 4 to 6 weeks for a normal person meant 4 to 6 months for me. So I was out of work for 6 months. Some of my students came and went while I was gone. Now this is the sad part. At the 6-month mark, I went back to my doctor. I was still showing abnormal blood work. And of course, because I was on antibiotics and because for being septic and because of having the Epstein-Barr virus, meant they could not treat my arthritis. So at that point, I had been without treatments for 6 months. Now when you have an autoimmune disease that goes untreated, you can only imagine that it had gotten worse and worse and worse. The flare-ups were getting worse. The pain was getting worse. I was losing function. I was in my early 30s. I was supposed to already start my masterate program. I got accepted into school. It was gonna be a thing. I was excited. My life was supposed to not do this. It was not supposed to go this way. I got a phone call from my supervisor. The little girl who had continued to come to work sick. Well, she's the one that ended up in the hospital. She got fired. But because she felt guilty, she called. She called my company to tell them what was wrong. She had a mutated strain of the Epstein virus, and they had figured out what it was. And when they called, my boss called me. And I'm so grateful they did. Because with that information, I was able to go back into the hospital and get the treatment I needed to start getting better. The sad part is, hey, I'm trying to have a conversation here. Do ya mind? Thank you. Pig. So 6 months in. 6 long months. I still wasn't released to go back. I go see my specialist. And at that point, my blood work was so bad. The infections were bad. And we couldn't treat. And she goes, I'm concerned. And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, I don't think you're ever going back to work. I said, what do you mean? I'm supposed to be starting my masterate program. She goes, I don't think you're ever going back to work. I said, no. I can get through this. I can get through anything. We've done it before. And she said, well, there's a drug trial. But it's considered oncology. It's chemo. I said, okay. Unfortunately, one of the things Epstein-Barr does is it attacks your organs. And I was no exception. My blood work kept coming back, and the reason why I had become septic was because my gallbladder had failed. It was decaying inside of me. It was necrosing. It was failing. It was making me sick. And they wanted to put me on chemo. But I started throwing up blood. That's always a concern, don't you think? So they rushed me to the hospital. And within a week, I was in emergency surgery. At this point, I had missed 7 months of work. 7. Short-term disability was still covering me. But after 7 months of work, you really kind of are behind the times. Let me tell you. I recovered from losing my gallbladder. My blood work started to balance out. I started to get better from the Epstein. My numbers were coming down. All was well. Except it wasn't. My hands. I couldn't use my hands like I used to. I couldn't play video games or type or paint or do any of the fun things that I enjoy doing. And I kept complaining about it. The flare-ups were getting harder. They were getting worse. So we did a full round of x-rays, MRIs, ultrasounds. I also had pain in my groin.
Welcome, responder. I am
These were all
authorized to
concerning,
trade supplies.
questionable, scary issues. We start the chemo when they cleared me enough from the Epstein. And it started to work. My hands started to improve. The swelling started to go down. Things started looking up. Except I started puking blood again. And we're like, why? What's going on? And the pain in my groin got worse and worse. And by this time, I'd missed a year of work. Now, you miss a year of work. Kind of surprised you still have a job, wouldn't you think? And I sure was. I went and saw my OBGYN because the pain was in my groin. Now during this time, I continued to have a normal cycle just like any other girl. Everything was normal. To a point, I mean, I was sick as a dog all the time. What did I know? I mean, for God's sake, I still had side effects from the Epstein-Barr. I wasn't sleeping 18 hours a day. I was only sleeping about 10, which is a hell of a lot better. Because they had already told me, due to my compromised system, my scores might get better, but I would have the effects for up to 2 years. Boy, they weren't kidding. I sure did, too, by the way. Sucked. But then the next thing hit. I started having issues with my pancreas. I started having the pain in my groin. And it wouldn't let us... I finally got them to do another ultrasound. But this time not of my hands or my joints. I had them look at my lady bits. I had grown tumors. I know that word's scary, isn't it? Isn't that a scary word? Anytime you hear the word tumor, scary images come to mind. I have to admit, I was scared. Yeah, I was trying to recover from Epstein. I just lost my gallbladder. My pancreas scores were weird. It's pain in my groin, and everything was just crazy. It was crazy. And yet, I kept telling everybody, I'm gonna be just fine. You know why? Because I choose to be. No matter what happens, I'm gonna fight it. Did I just find dirty magazines? I'm gonna take that. Well, we have tumors. My doctor told me that he didn't want to take care of it. He wanted to send me directly to oncology because I already have rheumatoid. I'm already on drug trials. I have autoimmune. It was scary. I will admit to you all right here and right now, I did the ultimate and ultimate girl things. I cried. Ugly, ugly tears. I'm an ugly crier. I grabbed that doctor's arm and I cried. I told him no. It's not cancer. I don't say that word. That word does not exist in your vocabulary. And I cried. And I begged him. I said, you are my doctor. You do it. And he told me, he goes, you understand that this means... He goes, you understand...
Hello, can you hear me?
Uh-oh. I hear a person!
You can? Sweet. Do you have Discord? You wanna join together?
I'm gonna go run away and hide now. Bye-bye. Friendly people. And my social awkward self is gonna go run and hide. Matter of fact, we're just gonna run away. I don't trust anybody. Unless they're already in my little group. Yay! Home sweet home! Well, anyway, yes, I pulled a girl, the ultimate girl thing. I cried and begged, and I convinced the doctor put me in the local hospital, to not give me over to oncology, but to do the surgery himself. By the time the surgery got scheduled and everything else, I'd been out of work a year and 6 months. Already a year and 6 months. The doctor agreed. Apparently, he was weak for tears. I'm grateful. He agreed to do the surgery only if he could register me with oncology, and I continue to see an oncologist as well to make sure. Oh, was he trying to friend me? Oh. And here I go and run away like the awkward shit that I am. Ah! Weak. I'll try next time. Anyway. So here I am, a year and 6 months, going into surgery. At that point, I had went from short-term disability to long-term. It really wasn't looking good for the home team, I have to admit, at this point. I've been out of work for so long. So very long. The surgery was a success in a sense. I survived it, of course, because otherwise I couldn't be here chattering away with you, telling you what's going on. They ended up having to remove a 12-centimeter tumor and a 10-centimeter tumor, and half my girly bits. What was supposed to be a laparoscopic surgery, unfortunately, was not the case. What should have been a 1-hour surgery ended up sneaky. And not all men are rakes. He probably would have flirted or something, but since I'm talking to you all, and I'd rather keep to my friend group. Now, if one of you all wanted to come in here and join me, you'd be welcome. Of course. Anyway. So, surgery ended up being over 4 hours. Instead of doing little tiny incisions and having it be laparoscopic, they had to cut me open. No girl needs to be scarred. None. And what this poor doctor had to do was sad. He had to cut me open from the belly button down to, you know, my hoo-hoo dilly. All the way down. So, I ended up in the hospital for, God, that round, what was it, 10 days, I think? Because, of course, being autoimmune compromised, I had complications. Of course I did. I had to be a special. I bet you do, Sneaky. You've told me of a few of yours. So, then came the road to recovery. Now, granted, I'm already in my 30s. I've now been out of work a year and a half plus, because then I had the surgery, and you know, you had to recover from that. A few months later, I go in for my follow-up and attempt to get released. Well, the oncologist says that the cancer, the ick, all of it was one fell swoop. There's nothing left. It's good. I just have to come back periodically and test to make sure it doesn't come back. Hooray! You want to talk about the happiest jig ever? I'm like, the world can throw all of its ick at me and I will continue to stand. Suck it, world. Suck it. I want to kick ass and take names. Again and again and again. So, I'm like, alright. If that's recovering, maybe it'll get better. The thing was, I had to admit that I was still having issues with blood in my urine. Well, that can't be good. Right? Right. Of course not. So no, I survived the big sea scare. Survived all of that. Give me all that iron. I'll take it. To still have complications, I go to my rheumatologist. Now, I've been without treatment at this point almost 2 years. So it was over a year and a half. I want to say it was a year and 9 months when I get back to my rheumatologist. My hands were swollen, twisted. I couldn't use them hardly. And she was scared that a lot of damage had happened. We ordered an MRI. Not an MRI, sorry, an ultrasound. It was the most painful experience of my life. Next to nerve conduction study. That is beyond medieval torture, and that's a story for another day. We need to start treatment again. And we need to do it fast. I was inflamed. It was painful. And I went and saw a GI because, you know, I was urinating blood again. My OBGYN said it had nothing to do with the female goody bits because that was taken care of. All of that was showing normal. The oncologist was showing normal. The only thing that was abnormal was the continuation of the white blood count being extremely high. And that's not normal. So, okay. So I go to see the GI. They start looking at my pancreas. And it's engorged. It's blocked. For God's sake. So they start running my blood work and they're like, "You're diabetic." And I said, "No, I'm not." They're like, "Yes, you are." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." Steroids from after surgery and everything, they were giving me like football player strength steroids. And I said, steroids are gonna, you know, raise your blood sugar level. It's got nothing to do with nothing. And he said, all right. And he was gonna work with me. But in the meantime, pancreas is engorged. Pancreas is blocked. I gotta go have surgery. I'm like, but I just got out of surgery. I'm like, how much anesthesia can one little girl have? Okay? Come on now. Needless to say, over the next 6 months, which then puts me at 2 years of being out of work, 3 more surgeries on my pancreas. Actually, 6 more surgeries over the next 6 months, because they would go in and they would put a stent in it, and then they'd have to go in and they take it out. And they had to do this 3 different times. And because I was going to be enduring anesthesia and other stuff, that again put my rheumatologist on hold. She couldn't treat me if I was continuing to have surgery. I was already too compromised. Well, survived that handful of surgeries. We then had to do endoscopies, colonoscopies, you name it, they did it. I truly felt like a very messed up hentai porn with very naughty tentacles that really were not fun at all. Let me tell you, it was not a good time to be me. This puts us at over 2 years out of work. Long-term disability was still in effect. At this point, it was time for me to apply for Social Security and become fully disabled. I went to my primary doctor, my GI doctor, my rheumatologist, my oncologist, all of them. I involved them all. The GI doctor said on his end, I was fine, go back to work. OBGYN said as far as he was concerned, I was fine, go back to work. My primary doctor and my rheumatologist, though, they met, had a lengthy discussion, and decided that the best thing for me would be to stop working. Because work would just be undue stress on my hands, on me physically. And with me being as compromised as I would, they felt that the best thing would be to retire me. Make me stay at home, get treated, and maybe through treatment, get some quality of life. At this point, my hands were useless. So very useless. And it made me cry. Not ugly tears of, please don't send me to the oncologist, but it was grief. Pure grief. Because this was not the direction my life was supposed to go. I should have been working on my masterate. I should have been working on making a family at this point. Living my life with my husband and developing a family and my dreams and making a change in the way we educate. Teaching companies how to quit looking at them as dollar signs, but as people, as assets. And here I am, knocked out of the game. 2 years plus at this point. My doctor and my rheumatologist were right. If I wasn't working 12 to 15 hours a day, I would have a better chance of getting the treatment I needed. Of slowing down the damage. Of being able to be in more drug trials and maybe get some better quality of life. But boy, is that humbling. When you're young and I'm invincible. Damn it, I'm invincible. This isn't happening. I'm in, I was in more than the river of denial. It was... I wasn't taking ownership on any of it. It was no... I'm not taking delivery. But I also was tired at this point. So tired. We didn't have pain management under control. Insurance was not paying for physical therapy anymore at this point. It wasn't looking good for the home team. So the best thing I could do for myself was get the lawyer, and become disabled. And so we started the process. In the meantime, my doctors worked tirelessly to find out where the remaining infections were, because my blood count was still bad. Trying to get my pancreas to normalize, my liver scores to normalize, to be able to take treatment, and maybe to see how much use I can still have. Maybe some quality of life, etc. It took me another 2 years to win my cases. I got fired from my job during this time. Now, it might sound really messed up, and it kinda is. You take somebody who's out on medical leave, and you fire them. It was cruel. And it was rough. But I still get a paycheck from them, even though I'm not employed. It's a small one, but it's something. Now, winning that part of my case gave me back some independence. Even though I'm not working a full-time job anymore, even though I'm no longer teaching, I can still contribute to my own bills and to the family. So that's really helped. Now we're at 5 years. At this point, I've been out of work 5 years, and I had to go to court. They made me stand before a judge as if I was a criminal. I had to stand before a judge, and he looked at me, and he told me I don't look sick. Ignorance must be bliss. But I kept my cool. I kept my temper. I explained to him that personality has nothing to do with my disability. I'm not here on a mental disability case. I'm here on a physical one. I had my hands under the table the whole time I was in court, until finally I had to look at him and said, I don't look sick, but what do these look like? I showed him my hands. He asked me to sign a piece of paper. My hands shook. Oh my God. They shook so bad. I couldn't do it. I couldn't write legibly. And I cried in front of everyone. I mean, how humiliating is that? You know, you're trying to wrap up you're standing before a judge, and you have to sign the papers that, you know, that you were there, and you can't do it. And the lawyer's like, I can't sign for you. You have to sign. You have to do it. Just take your time. They patiently waited. But even the judge wouldn't make a decision right there. He wanted to sit down. We had turned in all 10 years of data of the progression of my rheumatoid. I also turned in the success that I was having at work. In other words, I was turning in my yearly evaluations. Show him what kind of worker I was, and ask him, why would I ask a judge to claim me as disabled when I was going up for yet another promotion at work? I was succeeding in life. Marriage, my first house. I was gonna make a family. I was gonna go into my masterate program. Why? Why would I want to stand here and throw that all away and be disabled? I don't even want to admit that I have this at all. But I did it. And I did that, friends and family who are listening. So that I could work on things that matter. For some people, things that matter are status, success at work, pursuit of education, of passions, all of those things, status symbols, acquisition of things. That's not success for me. It could be for you, and I'm not going to judge you if it is. I can only tell you what it is for me. And for me, quality of life is not having to be in bed all day. For having enough energy to get up and do something, to pick up a new hobby, pursue something, to be able to help keep up my house. That means cooking and cleaning. Yes, it sounds super domestic and simple, but it's in the scope of things that I want to be able to do. My husband is succeeding in his career. He's doing excellent, and I'm proud of him. I want to be able to support him now. My dreams have had to change over and over and over again. Now for me, quality of life is things like this. Being able to play a video game and hang out with my friends far and wide and talk to them. To be able to have human connection even though I'm not healthy. Even though I'm sick. Quality of life is to be able to continue to create. Whether that be writing, painting, or any other new hobby I have. As many of you know, this year I did NaNoWriMo, and I won. But I paid a hefty price for it. My doctors are very upset with me about winning NaNoWriMo this year because I hurt my hands. It really, really hurt my hands. But I'm going to take these days and these times that I have with you guys to continue that long distance yet human connection. And if that means I can raise a little bit of awareness for people who are dealing with chronic illnesses but they don't look sick, then maybe we don't be so quick to judge. And maybe we don't be so quick to label them. I haven't changed. I'm still your friend. I'm still your relative. I'm still me. And all I hope is that that doesn't get forgotten. I still want to be a part of everybody's lives, even if it's limited. Even though I have flare-ups and at times I can't get on here and stream because it hurts. And I want that to be okay. I want the people in my life to be like, that's okay. We're still here with you. We'll come listen. We'll come hang out. It's no problem. When you can be here, you be here. And I want to do that for others. I want other people to realize they're not alone. You can have human contact. You can have people in your corner. And that, to me, is quality of life. And you're welcome to disagree with me. You're welcome to your opinion. After all, it's what free speech is all about, isn't it? And you may think that my qualities or the things that I'm desiring now are simple and limited. Perhaps they are. That's what's going to keep me going for now. I'm going to keep fighting. Pitchfork, bro. Oh, and I'm going to get ganged up on. This is weak sausage. You know what? When I'm done thumping you three, I'm going to go fix my stuff. 3 against 1. And this is so not cool. Anyway, That's the focus of today's stream. A little bit. And give you some background. Let you know who you're hanging out with. It might tug on your heartstrings a bit. Might make you feel feelings. You might even want to feel sorry for me. I get that. That means you do have a level of empathy and kindness. And I appreciate that. And yes, the stubborn part of me is gonna sit there and be like, I don't want y'all pity. No. It's not necessarily pity. I understand what it is. It is, man, you know, you've been dealt a really rough kind of deal. Barbed flaming pitchfork! Ah! We're gonna make that happen. Okay, we gotta go repair my pitchfork. Oh, that's armor. Anyway. I'm totally going to, I need to repair this bad boy. Yeah, there it is. Barbed flaming pitchfork. I need makeshift warrior rank 2. Oh, I cannot wait to your face find that perk card because that is so gonna be a thing. Alright, friends and family, as you can hear by my yawn face, I'm getting sleepy. Very sleepy. I didn't even intend to stream today, because I'm very tired. You can imagine. I am very tired. I've been out of work over 5 years now. In 2018 alone, I've had 15 rounds of chemo, and I'm still fighting. I'm still walking on my own. It's hard sometimes. Doing this, some days is hard for me to do. But you notice I really was just talking and meandering. Because my hands kind of hurt, so I really didn't want to do anything crazy. So I didn't. I just kind of low-keyed it with you today, and I hope you don't mind. Tomorrow will be another day, maybe a better day. And hopefully, we'll get more accomplished at that point. We're level 12 though, so we can level up. Maybe we can get that second, that second makeshift. Oh, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it? Where's the one that's makeshift warrior? There it is. That's what I want. Yes, please. Yay! We can go make the thing. We can make the thing, y'all. We're gonna make the thing. Do you understand? We're gonna have a flaming pitchfork. Do you know how excited I am for this thing? Look at it. Look at it. It is awesome. Rough day. I don't care. I got me a flaming pitchfork. Can't wait to play with this. This is gonna be fun. Oh, how badass is that? Flamin' pitchfork. Oh, fantastic. And I'm tired. I'm gonna go curl up on the couch. I'm gonna crochet. I know that sounds like, you know, grandma work, but I've been teaching myself how to do it. I think it's kind of nifty. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go lay on the couch and get comfortable. I'm gonna crochet, and I'm gonna go watch Doctor Who. Because I like it. I appreciate you all for coming and joining me today. And Soul, I'm kind of excited. If you tried to stream today, that means there might be more in the future. And that would be a whole lot of yes, please. And Sneaky, I know you understand what I've been going through probably closer than most people do. You have had to go through the ringer dozens of times, and yet you keep standing up too. I'm proud of you. And I'm so glad that you were able to come join me for a little bit and listen and hang out with me. And maybe next time I get another Minecraft server up, you'll come join me. Maybe, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Now, Soul, I know you don't have a second monitor, and that's how I'm keeping an eye on the chat. But I know there are other programs. Right, I know there's a program that will let it scroll on your screen when somebody chats. I don't know what it is, but it would be something to look into. That way you can keep up with the people hanging out with you and participating. That could be success. I can't wait to finish this base too. I mean, I've got a couple of really nifty views. It's fall. It's pretty. I like being up here in the trees. See? Nifty view. And it's mine. And so that's what I'm going to leave you with tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to me ramble on forever about what's been going on these last few years and why a young girl in her 30s is retired. Good night, everybody. Thanks again.